If you clicked on this video, I invite you to watch it all the way through because I will be talking about some issues within the queer community and within specifically the Black community, especially with everything that's going on in the world. There are some things being said on social media and online concerning the issues, and a lot of things are being said that don't help. They're not helping. So I'm going to get to everything that I'm about to talk about, but I invite you to watch this video all the way through. With the theme of this video, I would like to introduce myself. If you're an OG to this channel, you already know who I am and my background and everything, but if you don't know who I am, my name is Christian Toilupe. I am a transgender woman, and I am also biracial, and my mix is Caucasian and Samoan. With all those labels being put forth into the world, transgender, biracial, all of that, everything that I'm going to be talking about is from a trans perspective, from someone who is from Utah, from someone who is in the United States, from someone who is biracial, for someone that grew up in different cultures. I want to start off with addressing the questions: why the Pride Parade? Why Pride Month? What is the big hullabaloo about the gay and trans community? When I say gay and trans community, I'm talking about the queer community, the LGBT community. What is the big hullabaloo? Historically speaking, and especially with the climate here in America, life kind of sucks when you're queer. There are things that your counterparts, straight and cisgendered people, are allowed to do, whether that be legally or socially, and there are things that you're just not allowed to do. There are some safety issues that go along with being gay and trans. There are other things that come with it all. The queer community comes from a long history of being ridiculed, bullied, killed. That runs deep in our history as queer people. With any issue in America, where gays were not allowed to be openly gay, when trans people were shunned back into the closet, when times were not great for my community, we fought back, as have other communities. You think about the way how America even started, battling against the homeland. You think about Black people fighting for citizenship in America, fighting to be recognized as human beings, civil rights movement, war. With the gay and trans community, our rights as citizens here in the United States started with the Stonewall riot, which happened back in 1969. I personally did not know anything about Stonewall growing up. My history, the history of queer people, that was never taught to me growing up. I had no idea about Stonewall. I had no idea about like the AIDS pandemic. Anything related to that, I didn't know about. But the Stonewall riots specifically, I didn't know what that was. It wasn't until I started college that I learned about the Stonewall riots. And the background behind that is that back in the day when being gay and trans was illegal, bars would get raided a ton by policemen. There were many gay people and trans people, and by gay I mean like including lesbians and everybody else. There are people that were getting killed and thrown into prison just for being who they were. And especially if you live here in Utah, you probably didn't even hear about the Stonewall riots even during that time. A lot of people, especially from my generation, don't know that the popular gay bars used to get raided a ton by policemen. The only reason why I know that is because I actually have talked to my older gay mentors. I don't want to say older, but older mentors. And everyone that had lived here in Salt Lake City during that time of the Stonewall riot, which 1969, that wasn't too long ago. 1970s, those times were very horrible for the LGBT community here in Utah specifically. Fast forward many years after having set fire to different things, throwing bricks, come 2015, 40 so odd years later, now gay people are allowed to get married. Now that is legalized. And it's still an issue in a lot of states. Transgender people, it is super unsafe for people like me. Historically speaking, Trans people like me have always been victims of hate crime. There are many that get raped. There are many that get killed, whether that be by policemen or their peers, dates. And you think if I'm over-exaggerating with dates, but last year there was a trans woman who, on a date, while revealing to her date that she was transgender, he shot and killed her. She's no longer with us anymore. At the beginning of New Year's 2020, a trans man who had a family, he had kids, he was on his way to work and word got out that he was transgender. Someone didn't like that he was transgender, shot him. Since then, there have been about 12 deaths this year. We're not even halfway through the year yet, and there have been 12 reported. There are some that don't get reported, and some get misgendered a lot, so they don't get recorded as trans murders. But since the beginning of this year till now, there have been 12 reported murders. So back to the question of why do we have Pride Parade? Why do we have Pride Month? It's to vocalize the issues that we face today. Yes, I am an American citizen, but I don't have the same rights as my counterparts do. Same rights being that I get ridiculed in public. Things that I had to think about are, is this place that I'm in right now safe for me? Am I passing? And if I'm not passing, who's going to hurt me? Which bathroom should I use if, God forbid, that I have to pee in public? There have been too many times that when trans women, specifically trans women of color, and specifically within that umbrella because there are many different races and ethnicities that go under of color, Black trans women specifically get murdered all the time for issues like these, which is not fair. That's just to show, like, although we say we're all equal, people like me aren't being equally treated. Gay people aren't being equally treated. If you are cisgender, if you were born in the correct body, you haven't transitioned ever, and if you are straight, you probably don't think about twice when you're going on dates. You don't think about where to go eat, specifically where is safe, where is socially acceptable for you guys to go eat, where can you get a marriage license from someone that's not going to turn you away? A story that was pretty huge a few years ago. Those are things that you don't have to worry about. Gay people, on the other hand, have to worry about that. They have to worry about who they're with, where they can go eat. Are they going to get stared at? Are they going to get ridiculed in public? Are things going to get violent? Sometimes we don't know. The same goes for a trans person. I specifically worry about my safety a lot. So do my parents. When I first came out, my mom told me the statistics that she had learned about trans people, which I had personally not learned about yet. And she was talking about how violent things can get for a trans person, whether that be by other peers of mine that are cisgender, straight, whether it be a police officer. There has always been an issue around trans lives being taken. And this just isn't an issue in America, same with gay issues. In other places throughout the world, it's safer for people like me, and in others, it's just as dangerous, if not so more. Which is why we have Pride Parade. This is why we have Pride Month. It's so that people like me are able to voice out saying, help us. Please be allies to us. Please be our friends. Please help us. With all these issues being said, although you may say that we are equal, we are not equally treated. Now to talk about everything else that's happening in the world, all the crazy amounts of Black people being shot and killed, whether it be by peers and most commonly through police brutality. This is a huge issue. And along with the different names that were announced on the news, media, everywhere, along with George and along with Breonna, Tony, a transgender man, Black, was also a victim of police brutality. He was also shot. This, just where he is Black and trans, this affects people like me. When people like me, month after month, see someone that looks like us, walks like us, talks like this, and this goes for Black people too, you want to throw up. You hear all these horror stories about Black people just being in public. They get shot and killed. Oh, well, he had a gun. You have the right to bear arms too, but that never happens to you. Oh, he looked dangerous. He was running. He was on a jog just like every other person that is trying to do the whole 2020 new me, I'm trying to be fit. Black people, trans people, other people in the minorities, we try to do the same thing that our other counterparts are able to do. And it sucks, and this shouldn't be happening, but it's taking away our lives. It's putting us in danger. On Saturday, there were riots here in Salt Lake City, which I was shocked by. I'm appreciative of people protesting for Black Lives Matter. Where I was scared was the fact that we were called onto curfew. There was a curfew announced, and if you were out and about, the policeman had every right to pull you over. And a lot of stories that have to deal with Black people or trans people getting pulled over usually end up in death. So while I'm at work at Primary Children's and I'm just doing my job, there's a moment where I was alone cleaning something, and I was thinking about how am I going to get home without getting caught by a cop. I do have my sticker on my car that is like my parking pass for Primary Children's, but I wasn't sure how they would react with me driving downtown at like 9:40 at night, because I did get off at 9:30. I was sitting there just cleaning, and I just started shaking, fearful, because if I get pulled over, they take my ID, and I don't look like my ID, there's a big issue. I've had a couple of instances, specifically with the post office, where I had to go pick up a package, but because I handed them my ID and they saw this, they didn't believe that it was me, and I had to explain that I am transgender and that is me. Not only did everyone else hear that, but it's like, there are many situations like that where with me announcing that I am transgender puts my safety at risk. And it shouldn't, but that's the reality that I live in. So anyways, I was at work just shaking and trying not to cry just because I was very anxious about getting home. Luckily, my roommate, who's very good to me, said that she'd speak with me on the phone all the way until I got home. When if something were to happen, that she heard all of it. So I have a witness, but also just to help me get home safely. So she was on her maps trying to find a route that was away from everything, and I was able to make it home safely without getting pulled over. So thank God that happened, but in the moment, I was fearing for my life. With that being said, there are many instances where if you are not trans or of color or queer in general, you probably don't have to think about those things. If you get pulled over for speeding, you're probably not going to be worrying about if a policeman is going to arrest you or worse, kill you. Most instances like that for people that are trans or Black, usually Black people and specifically, these are things that we have to worry about. And it's unfair that we have to even think about that. That is why we have Pride Parade. That is why we have Pride Month. That is why we have Black History Month. That is why we have Pride anything. That is why we have the hashtags Black Lives Matter. That is why we have the hashtag Black Trans Lives Matter. That's why we have the hashtag Trans Lives Matter. That is why we have the hashtag Gay Rights. If you are not a person of color, if you're not queer, you already have your rights. So to complain, well, what about my rights? You don't have to worry about your rights. I do. Gay people do. Black people have to. Well, doesn't my life matter? Hashtag all lives matter. We're not saying that all lives don't matter when specifically hiding the Black community or the trans community or the gay community. What we are saying is our lives are in danger. We have a lack of rights, unlike you. Yes, your life matters, and yes, all lives matter, but not all lives are being affected in the same way. If you don't have to think about your safety while going running, if you don't have to think about your safety while on a date with someone, if you don't have to think about your safety with exposing who you are, if you don't have to think about those stuff, you don't have the same issues that we do. Hashtag Black Lives Matter, hashtag Black Trans Lives Matter, hashtag Trans Lives Matter. There have also been many comments on the riots and the looting. I will say, I do understand the argument that not all policemen are bad and evil. There are some good police officers. There are some good white people. There are good people in the world. So with random police officers getting killed off, yes, that's horrible. That's sad. That shouldn't be happening. On the flip side, hundreds and hundreds of Black people dying innocently for no reason, no crimes committed, that is also a big issue. Yes, burning down things, vandalism, all that, that's bad. That is how everything ever started in America. The big war between America and the mainland trying to gain freedom. The Boston Tea Party, civil rights, gay rights. All of that started with protests. A lot of them were riots. And with us trying to take peaceful approaches, for the Black community, that's ended in deaths. For the gay community, before Stonewall, ended in deaths. With people who look like and walk like me and my other counterparts who don't look like me but are part of the minority group, specifically Black people and other queer people that are Black, it is a huge issue to see each other slowly dying off because, for why? That is the bigger issue. So whether you are for riots, against riots, they are scary, but I will say that's how most everything was able to catch attention and have something actually happen. Had Stonewall had never happened, gay people would probably not be able to get married still. Without the civil rights movement, Black people, still their situation isn't the best at all, but it would be a lot worse still. With all of this being said, there was a good story on Instagram. It was one of the Instagram stories that popped up in my feed. This is from a good friend back in elementary school, junior high, high school. We grew up together, graduated together. Her name is Krenda Hemuli, and she put this together on her Instagram story, and I just wanted to share it all with you. Hear her message. From the beginning, violence has been part of our country, as have looting and protesting and rioting, as has racism. The history of our country has been brutal and also very deadly, but there have always been people who stepped up and did what's right. And the rights to life and liberty are at the forefront of this nation. It has never been a question about whether or not people will protest in this country. It's always been known. But what matters is what you get to in the end. So how do we stop these riots and these murders? How do we stop innocent people from getting hurt? We do it by coming together because it has worked before and you don't doubt it for a second. We do it by working to erase privilege and striving to educate one another respectfully. We do it without taking away anyone else's freedom, and you do it with kindness and justice. If that isn't the best visual essay ever, I don't know what is. So after everything that I have shared concerning Pride Month, why we have it, why hashtag Black Lives Matter, why hashtag Black Trans Lives Matter, and then anything surrounding trans issues, hashtag Trans Lives Matter, I hope now you understand why we have those different hashtags, why we have those different celebrations, why we have those different gatherings, why we do what we do. This is all to vocalize the issues that we need help and we can't do it alone. Normally I would say like the video, comment, subscribe. I would rather you share this so that you and your friends could educate yourselves on why Black Lives Matter, why Pride Month, why Pride Parade, why Pride anything. That way so that you guys are more informed on why and how you guys can contribute. I want to say I am sending my love to everyone, especially those affected by everything that's been going on. I see you, we see you, we're here. Some things that you can do for the Black community and specifically for everything that's been happening, go sign the petitions and get justice for their stories. And with that, I hope you have a good day.